Hello everyone, V here, and I've been experimenting with resin dice for a while now, and I would like to show you the fruits of my labors. Today, we'll be making the dice for my character Zahra, the Fire Genasi monk. She is the first social butterfly character I've ever made, and actually more bard-like than monk-like in behavior. This time I wanted to test out the new slab mold I got recently. With all its flaws, it's still more comfortable to use than the individual molds I had before that. To start things off, I heat up both components in the hot water bath to make them more liquidy. That will help them release more bubbles, which is detrimental since I don't have a pressure pot. Next up, I start mixing. I'm using 2:1 ratio resin, and this little cup is perfect for little mixes that I'm doing right now, because it has 5 and 15 milliliters marks. As you can see, I'm using the little coffee sticks that are already covered up in some resin from the past experiments, but it works for me. The very important part is to stir very thoroughly and scrape the sides to make sure the resin is thoroughly mixed. Otherwise, it will not cure properly. Next, I'm preparing 2 cups for the 2 powders I'm planning to use. First is this black shiny powder, and then I prepare some fluorescent orange pigment. I waited for about 10 minutes so that bubbles can come to the surface, and then I pop them with alcohol. Then I just add the resin into the powder and start mixing. Once the mix is ready, I start preparing another batch for the main color of the dice. Aside from the main color, I also wanted to add a little more shine to the dice, and I noticed that silver pigment does that just fine. So I mixed that in with a few drops of yellow dye, later mixing it with a few drops of orange as well, to bring it a bit closer to the color I want. After waiting for a bit, I pop bubbles with some alcohol, and it's time to pour. I try my best to pour very slowly so that resin has a chance to get into every nits and cracks. And then I also do some work with a toothpick to make sure all the big bubbles are out and they don't ruin the numbers. Then, before the resin gets too thick, I add my previously mixed batch so that it can sink to the bottom. As the pigment is way heavier than the resin itself, it will always sink. This is known as the mica drop technique, and it's pretty popular in the dice making community. I ended up slightly overestimating my measuring abilities and ended up mixing not enough resin to fill the entire mold, but I quickly fixed that with a new little batch. After I'm done, I put in the resin-covered lid onto the mold and use a little improvised weight to keep it secure. The 24 hours have passed, and now it's time to demold. I remove a bunch of excess resin from the top although most of it ends up coming off once I demold the D4. So far, they're looking pretty good. Although there is a little problem with the D20, but I'll review that one later. There are some bubbles here and there, especially on the upper sides, but they don't seem to obscure numbers, so that shouldn't be a problem, since I am making those for myself, not for anyone else. So apparently the lid of this mold is not aligned properly, so the D20 ends up having this little elevated side on the one, but it's not that big of an issue for me. My absolute favorite of the set is this D100. Just look at the clouds inside of it. Beautiful. The black powder ended up being a little more scattered than I expected, and in some places the orange one synced a little too much, but overall I'm pretty proud of this set. Even the D20 looks pretty good after sanding, although the one side is a little more shallow than the others. The lower sides still have a lot of bubbles, and my polishing skills could definitely use some work, but I call this one a success. Thank you for watching, and if you like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. If you would like to support the channel, there will be a Boosty link in the description. Till next time, bye!